Hello there, welcome to the news at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, delay and disruption on the country's busiest road. 9 months of works have started on the M8. We'll hear from commuters and find out why the work is needed. Busting drug dealers on the cocaine superhighway. Gangs are trying to smuggle the drug into the UK on an industrial scale with the help of Scottish crime groups.
We find it.
Why climate change means Scotland's now able to grow one of the world's most valuable foods. Scotland's men are in Hungary for their latest World Cup qualifier. Lewis is there too.
Well, Scotland take on Belarus in World Cup qualifying in an empty stadium, but some fans have still made the journey.
The great things about going to Scotland trips is fantastic trip, but usually the worst bit's the 90 minutes, you know, so when we heard this game was on and we couldn't get in, we just had to come.
And later, how the Glasgow Commonwealth Games hope to build a legacy for para-athletes. I'm Andrew Black, welcome to the news at 7. Now, if you spend much time driving up and down Scotland's busiest road, your worst nightmare has arrived. 9 months of roadworks on the M8. So why all the disruption? Well, the £10 million upgrade is all happening around Junction 26. The roads there were built back in 1965 and they now need to be fully resurfaced. Hardly a surprise given 150,000 people use the M8 every day. Delays aren't expected to be too bad at first, estimated at something like 6 to 15 minutes, but the last bit could bring significant hold-ups. Well, transport bosses say the pain is worth it, although contractor Amy says it will make the motorway safe and reliable and means that there won't have to be as many disruptive closures in the future. Well, our reporter Katrina Renton has been out on the roads today. Katrina, just tell us a bit more about what's happening.
I have, Andrew. The M8, of course, the busiest road in Scotland, goes through Scotland's largest city, and the work got underway today. We saw the new average speed 40 miles per hour cameras on that section of the M8. And to give an idea of where that work is, I know you gave the graph there, but Braehead Shopping Centre, if you know where that is, it's round about that area there in Hillington Industrial Estate. Now, with the exception of a brief break for the festive period, disruption on the road will continue until the 10th of May. Now, we went out to see what was happening, and certainly when we were out, there were no major delays at all. As you were saying about phase 1, that it's expected to be really not too bad at all. But we stopped at a few places to get some motorist views on the planned work over the next 9 months. And I guess quite predictably, the thought of that disruption is not a nice thought for people. And we started off at Hillington Industrial Estate and then we went on to Glasgow Airport.
Well, I heard it on the radio first thing this morning and I just thought, oh my God, can it get any worse? But I do understand they've got to do these vital repairs. My thoughts would be, could they not do them at off-peak times?
I'm a delivery driver, so people have, government have to complete this as soon as possible.
Dreading it. Already problems trying to get in out of Erskine because of other roadworks. So this will make my daily commute an awful lot further.
Me, I'm a taxi driver myself from Glasgow. People's coming to Glasgow Airport and they're getting delayed as well, and is affecting very badly to, I say, people like a worker.
Regular pick up my wife, she's a cabin crew, so I come and go most times. But yeah, well, I assume the roads are going to be amazing when it's all finished.
So a few grumpy commuters there, Katrina, unsurprisingly. What can they do about it?
Well, this is phase 1, but this is going to go on until the 10th of May. So phase 1, as we've talked about, is not expected to be too bad in terms of delays, a few minutes here or there. However, it's when we get into phase 4 and 5 where the majority of the work is on the westbound lanes, and that's expected to bring significant delays. Now, Amy, the engineering firm that maintains the trunk road, says that the work is essential to ensure the motorway remains safe and reliable. Proactive maintenance, they say, now helps us avoid the risk of deterioration that could help lead to more disruptive closures in the future. And you will also be aware, and I'm sure many of our viewers are aware, if you travel through Glasgow city centre, the Woodlands Viaduct near Charing Cross, the repairs there have been going on for 4 years, and it was announced last month that the work will not conclude until the second half of 2027. So that's considerably later than the original planned date of late 2020. 2023. And I think the message we really got from the drivers we were talking to today is that they hope that this new work gets completed on time.
OK, thank you very much, Katrina. Happy driving. That's our reporter, Katrina Renton there. Now, we know that Scotland is in the grip of a drugs crisis. Last week, we learned that the country retained the grim title of Europe's death capital for the 7th year in a row. A big part of the battle is stopping the drugs getting here in the first place. The BBC's Panorama programme has been looking into the gang smuggling huge amounts of cocaine from South America into Ireland and eventually here. It's a route known as the cocaine superhighway, and my colleague Dara McIntyre has been investigating that and how it's all connected to Scottish crime groups.
Well, over the last 2 years in particular, there's evidence that transnational drug traffickers are shipping their cocaine across the Atlantic in so-called motherships and then getting it collected off the south coast of Ireland. Now, the evidence is that some of those drugs are being shipped directly into Great Britain by using the open border between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. So they take they land the drugs in the southwest of Ireland, they drive them across the country, over the border, and then to a ferry port, taking them, it seems, more often than not, directly into Scotland, but they're also using other British ports.
So is this a new thing then?
Well, it's not a new phenomenon entirely. This sort of stuff used to go on in the 90s and indeed in the early noughties, where drugs were being landed in the south of Ireland with the idea of shipping them into Britain. But something has changed, and there's no doubt that as far as the police in Dublin and the PSNI here in Northern Ireland are concerned, that this is, in a sense, a new phenomenon. It's coming at rates that they didn't expect just over the last 2 years.
So tell us a bit more about this Scottish connection then.
Well, the Scottish connection, see, tonight's film is really about the MV Matthew, which was a hugely successful seizure and a police operation run by the Irish authorities in 2023, where smugglers had actually purchased their very own cargo ship to smuggle cocaine across the Atlantic. Now, their efforts didn't work, came to naught. But what they actually showed was the efforts that the cocaine cartels will go to get the drugs into Ireland, into the UK, and into Europe. Now, the Scottish connection, we've established that there was a Scottish connection in the MV Matthew case. Some of that Scottish connection, in particular regarding one man, one male, is featured in tonight's programme. But we spoke to police, and police told us that there was at least one other Scottish man centrally involved at kind of leadership level of the cartel that was engaged in this. And we also spoke to them about the Scottish connection in general, because when you look at the various different stories and cases around over the last 2 years, you can see Scotland featuring frequently. So we asked about that, and they told us that there was one large organised criminal group in Scotland working alongside the notorious Kinahan gang. We asked them, could they identify that gang? We put a couple of names to them, but they refused to do so. But this shouldn't come as a surprise. The PSNI in Northern Ireland, the Guards down south, the NCA in Britain will tell you that the criminals in Britain and Ireland, in both islands, have been working together. Borders don't mean anything, but definitely there is a Scottish connection.
OK, Dara, thank you very much for joining us tonight on the News at 7. And you can watch Panorama fighting the cocaine cartels on BBC One Scotland tonight at 11:10, and it's on the BBC iPlayer right now. OK, do you know what these are? I'll give you a clue. It's one of the world's most expensive foods. If you're still not sure, I'm talking about truffles. They're normally grown in places like Spain, but drier weather on the continent has caused a serious decline. But could Scotland come to the rescue? Truffles are now being successfully grown on the west coast. That's been put down to a change to wetter summer weather, creating ideal conditions for the fungus to thrive. Our environment correspondent Kevin Keane has been finding out a bit more.
It takes up to 7 years for the truffles to emerge, but fetching hundreds of pounds per kilo, the rewards are huge.
I think for Scotland this could be a really strong export crop. I think because of that high value, low volume thing. And Scotland, we've got a good track record anyway with, smoked salmon, with whisky, with luxury products. So I think it could be excellent for Scotland as a whole.
OK, well, let's speak to Jens Arney, Supka, Professor of Environmental Science at the University of Stirling. You've been involved in this project. Tell us a bit about why, then, these conditions in Scotland are now so good for growing truffles.
Well, truffles probably didn't know they like Scotland so much, but there is enough moisture. They need to have enough water in the soil. The trees have to thrive. And obviously, the Scottish West Coast is not really too dry for that kind of conditions. I think what Paul has done with his research is shown that if you create the right soil conditions and you grow the right trees, and then crucially, you inoculate the trees with a fungus. So that fungus has to be there to grow in the roots. It doesn't come on its own. Then he's now able to harvest the first truffle, which is obviously the big news today, 4.5 grams.
And the problem has been that in continental Europe, the weather has just become too dry for truffles to grow.
Yes, I think that it's not completely gone, but you've probably seen on the news the forest fires in the Mediterranean basin in Spain and France and in Italy. That's the regions where truffles grow. So it's getting increasingly dry, and along with all sorts of changes from climate change, truffles will not be able to persist and produce the crop that they used to do for much longer.
So what other kinds of effects might climate change have on Scotland, just outside of it suddenly being suitable to grow truffles?
Well, I think the changes, we're already seeing the changes. We can see, for example, different plants doing better. We can certainly see how the summer snow is disappearing. So we used to have snow patches on the Scottish hills surviving the summer, very rarely all disappearing. That's now a common occurrence. And there's vegetation that comes with it that will probably now struggle because they need the conditions of that. So some will disappear, others might come in.
So are we just going to have to start thinking differently now about how we grow different things?
Yes, absolutely. I know that many places, for example, the forest research are looking very much into what are the trees of the future to grow, because we can't just carry on trying to grow the trees that we've always had and try and create on the ground the conditions that they need. We need to think about what is the rainfall going to be, what's the temperature that they're going to experience, and then plant the right trees in the right place so that we have a tree crop, for example. The same goes for agriculture. So we need to adapt and understand where is there going to be more rainfall, where is there going to be less. And obviously there's uncertainty around it. But one thing that is clear is that we're going to see more extreme weather. We're going to see more droughts, more hot spells, and then a lot of rain falling in much shorter periods, rather than having this through the year mix of rainfall and sunny conditions.
So how close then are we to achieving all of this then? Striking the right balance of what we need to grow along with these changes that are happening in the climate?
Oh, I think that's going to be a continuous process. I mean, climate change is here, it's happening, and I think we'll continuously have to adapt to it, finding out which varieties do better. In a way, the way that climate change works and affects the species is that everything will move northwards or uphill. As we see with the snow patches, they disappear because it's getting warmer lower down. So something that grows a few hundred kilometers further south at the moment and grows well is probably what we're going to experience here. And that's what we're seeing with animals moving in. Butterflies that we didn't used to have now occurring in Scotland, and all sorts of native but also invasive species doing well and doing better with climate change.
OK, James, thank you very much for coming in and explaining all of that to us. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Now, Crohn's disease and colitis are debilitating conditions which cause inflammation of the gut and results in abdominal pain, weight loss and fatigue. More than 50,000 people in Scotland live with it, more than anywhere else in the UK. There's no cure for Crohn's, and work's going on all the time to improve treatment for the disease. Well, my colleague and BBC Scotland weather presenter Callum McCall has lived with Crohn's since his teens and has been telling us how new medication has changed his life.
In the space of 2 months from my lowest point in June, where I basically was just living between the bed and the toilet, going to the toilet 30 times a day, frequent blood, frequent diarrhoea, blood, mucus, joints were on fire, pain right across the system. I just didn't have energy at all, and the weight loss was extreme. I'd gone down to about 8 stone, and I then, on the 17th of June, commenced this new treatment. And it can take a while for it to build up in the system, and we're all unique in our responses to it. But I remember after about 2 weeks, it was almost like the flick of a switch.
My dear colleague Callum McCall speaking there. Well, the Catherine McEwen Foundation supports people living with Crohn's and colitis. Vicky Carrick is from the charity and told me more about how people can manage the symptoms.
Well, they vary for a lot of people, but the main ones are a lot of abdominal pain, frequency and urgency when you go to the loo, blood in the stool, things like that. But there are also other more challenging ones like chronic fatigue. A lot of our community tell us they're really tired a lot of the time and trying to function when you've got brain fog, etc. A lot of weight loss, appetite issues. So it really affects your day-to-day functioning.
Yeah, so it can be difficult then for people to try and live a full, normal, everyday life, go to a job and all that kind of thing if they have Crohn's.
Absolutely, getting to work, getting to school, going holidays, going to prom, all these really important things can be quite challenging if you've got uncontrolled symptoms like that.
So how can people deal with the symptoms of Crohn's then?
Well, I think the first thing you do is if you have any concerns and you go to your GP about any abdominal symptoms that you have. And then if you have a diagnosis of IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease, then there are charities like us, we're the Catherine McEwen Foundation, and we do a lot to support our community living with this condition. So we're very focused on non-clinical things. So when you have IBD, a lot of the time, it's very medicine focused. It's all about going to the hospital and things like that, and not really about going on holiday and benefits and things like that. So we've got lots of services which we offer to support our community. Mental health support for adults and young people. We've got a benefits support service. We do wellness walks every Sunday morning just to bring our community together, reduce isolation. So these are the things that really help. Even if you are symptomatic, you get to meet the IBD community and you get to be part of all of that. And people then realise that they're not alone. That's where the real gold is, connecting with other people who understand what you're going through, and that's really what we're all about here.
OK, well, thanks very much for joining us tonight on the News at 7.
You're very welcome, thanks.
Well, here on the programme, we've been telling a series of stories featuring finalists from the BBC's Make a Difference Awards. They were launched in 2020 and celebrate people who make life better for others. The winners are being announced at an event in Glasgow later this month. And tonight, we're hearing about the Baby Loss Retreat Centre, which helps the grieving parents of stillborn babies.
My name's Julie Morrison and I'm the CEO and founder of Baby Loss Retreat. What inspired me to start the charity was my daughter Erin, who was stillborn on the 9th of July 2003. It started when she was 20 weeks. Her placenta was failing and I didn't know that until she was 37 weeks when she sadly passed away. I never set the charity up then because I wasn't in the right frame of mind. I didn't start the charity until the baby's ashes scandal in Scotland, and through that investigation they found Erin's ashes sitting in the funeral directors for 13 years without our knowledge. I didn't want to go back down the route of being depressed. I had the fight in me this time to be able to set up a charity to help families.
I had experienced 2 losses. I went through a hell of a lot of trauma. Not even a week did I contact Baby Loss Retreat and I got counselling. Me and my husband get on a hell of a lot better.
They gave me the opportunity to celebrate my daughter rather than mourn her, and they taught me that every year when it comes to a birthday or an anniversary, we celebrate.
It's recognition for all the hard work from my team, but also for every baby out there that's sadly not with us.
Julie and Brian Morrison have been absolutely gems, and I would like to say a big thank you to them for all the help, support and everything they've done for me and Dan through our loss.
And if you've been affected by child bereavement, the BBC Action Line site has a list of organisations that may be able to help. Just go to bbc.co.uk/Action Line. Well, still to come, we are going to have the weather with Julie, but let's go to sport now. Scotland's men are in Hungary for their latest World Cup qualifier against Belarus. Lewis is there for us as well. Lewis, what's going on where you are then?
Thanks, Andrew. Yes, I'm here in Hungary in a small city called Zalaegerszeg because Scotland do indeed face Belarus tonight, but Belarus have been ordered by UEFA to play all of their home games at neutral venues and, as you can see, with no fans in attendance due to their support of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. But the Scotland team are here, they're warming up behind me, but even though there are no fans in the stands, some have still made the trip here.
great things about going to Scotland trips is fantastic trip, but usually the worst bit's the 90 minutes, you know. So when we heard this game was on and we couldn't get in, we just had to come.
It's the people. It's just us. It's the camaraderie, you know, the friendship, the meeting people that you haven't seen since the last game. You know,
makes it all worth it.
Makes it worth it.
Well, this is my 20th away
20?
trip. Yeah. And yeah, so we're counting this as a away trip, even though we're not getting into the game.
You can miss trips for a few weeks, and then when you go, it's like you've never been away.
Yeah.
The conversation starts at the point it stopped on the last trip. Even though these people stay maybe 20 or 30 miles from you, you have to travel 1,000 miles to see them.
Scotland fans should be allowed in, but had they been allowed in, we wouldn't be the only ones here. There'd be thousands and thousands here.
Well, I'm joined now by former Scotland international James McFadden, who's on punditry duty this evening. James, thanks for joining us. A strange atmosphere here, isn't it? What do you make of what's going on here?
Yeah, it is strange because we're so used to seeing fans in stadiums. I know that we had it through COVID, but to be in a game of this size, it's very strange. But look, the players have known about this since the draw was made, that there was going to be no fans, and more likely not having no fans, so they just have to deal with it. But it is going to be tough for them.
Well, let's just take a step out of the way, James, and let the guys have a look at the Scotland team warming up behind us and run through team news as well. 4 changes for Steve Clarke. Changes that you're surprised or pleased to see?
Pleased but not surprised. I know the effort that was put in Friday night against Denmark, there was always going to be, you know, a need for change, and not through performance because everybody was absolutely outstanding, but because of the fatigue issue and the recovery. You know, Grant Hanley being one of them. Outstanding performance Friday night, so we know it's not performance related, it's more to bring a freshness and maybe give Grant a rest. And I think that, you know, the choice has been made given it's a different type of game as well. It certainly does not surprise me, and I'm really happy to see it.
Players in the team tonight with real quality in the ball that we know a lot about, being one of those as well, directness, against a team that will probably sit in and try to frustrate Scotland.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think that, you know, Billy comes in and can control that midfield. It's just a different approach. You know, you look at how hard that midfield four worked in Friday night. It frees up Scott McTominay to go and get in support of Shea Adams and be that player that we've all, you know, seen flourish at Napoli, and Ben Gannon-Doak coming in. Excitement. You know, rescued, almost rescued the Nations League campaign last season with some unbelievable performances. So it's great to have him back in the team.
Well, we'll bring you back into the see you the minute. As I asked, brief question to finish: how big a boost would it be if Scotland 4 points from the first 2 games?
Oh, it'd be massive. I think going into the game against Denmark, we knew it was going to be tough and probably one of the toughest games. So to get 4 points, a great start. Double header at home, the next round of fixtures sets us up brilliantly for the rest of the campaign.
Certainly. Well, James, thank you very much for your time, and a reminder to you all watching on that you can indeed catch all of the action across the BBC tonight on Belarus. It gets underway at 7:30 with kick-off at 35 on BBC, and on the now from here in Hungary. Back to you, Andrew.
OK, thank you very much, Lewis. A couple of wee hiccups on the line there, but I think we've got the gist of the build-up to tonight's game. Let's stay with sport now, because Glasgow is hosting, of course, a slimmed-down Commonwealth Games next year. That's after the Australian state of Victoria backed out for financial reasons. That said, though, it's hoped that part of the Games' lasting legacy will be improving access to sport for disabled people. We've been speaking to a couple of para-athletes about the opportunities and the work that still needs to be done.
I think there's a lot going on, but not enough that we know about. So I feel like the clubs exist and there's so many good, great volunteers and coaches out there. But I feel like people with disabilities don't know that it exists, so the numbers are quite low. And I feel like to help it grow and to get more people involved, we just kind of need to see more of it and see what's going on and get more people involved.
Part of the reason I moved up here was to train with a really strong group and a really experienced coach, and that was one of the big draws that brought me up here. So it's definitely got a strong history of Parasport and Parasport's success.
At times I feel like there's been huge growth, and then in other times you go to events or clubs across the country and the numbers are still really low, and I find it hard to believe that, you know, there's not young people with disabilities out there that want to try new things and get involved in sport. So I feel like there's maybe a gap between like what exists and the numbers that are kind of showing up.
It's a lack of routes for disabled children and young adults to find their way into school, whether that's through mainstream PE lessons and mainstream school into clubs. I think it's that pathway that there's area for growth. I think for me the talent's there. Scotland's a sporting country. There's always going to be people with a disability that want to participate in sport, and within that there's going to be people that excel within sport. So I have no doubt that there's strength and depth there. It's just being able to find it and channel it in the right way.
I think success, like breeds success. So like when you see the likes of, you know, kind of athletes that are getting medals at major championships, and you know, whether it's wheelchair racing or the swimming team is so strong, like when you see that, people with disabilities are looking at it and they're going, oh, can I do that too? And I think that's kind of maybe where a lot of our successes come from. It's like a lot of legacy and people doing great things.
There we go, a couple of our very own para athletes, talking about their hopes and dreams for next year's Commonwealth Games. Now, let's get to the weather. Julian's here. Julian, every day there's another day of sunshine. I feel like we've been blessed with just one more day, but how long can it last?
Yeah, it's not going to last too much longer, Andrew. You're right, today was quite a quiet day and we had some decent sunny spells. There's more of the same to come tomorrow, but then it's Wednesday onwards that we're going to see things turning more unsettled and a bit more autumnal as well. Today we had good sunny spells for many of us, especially for eastern Scotland. Barely a cloud in the sky over Aberdeenshire a little earlier. More in the way of cloud in the west, a lovely cloudscape from one of our weather watchers in Ayrshire. And we also had a passing shower or two, especially for western Scotland. Now, into tomorrow, it's more of the same really. We still have high pressure close by, so it's pretty settled. But then, like I say, it's Wednesday onwards that we see things taking a much more autumnal turn, with low pressure moving in, associated weather fronts bringing rain, and there will be brisk winds at times into the bargain. Having said that, tomorrow morning is a quiet enough start. A few showers for Dumfries and Galloway first thing. Could be a few pockets of mist and fog. And it will be a fairly cool start, especially for parts of the East Highlands, inland Aberdeenshire. We could be starting out in mid-single figures. Much milder than that for the Northern and Western Isles, 12 or 13 Celsius the starting point. And for most, lots of sunshine to start the day. And many parts hanging on to sunshine tomorrow. There will be some areas of cloud drifting northwards, producing a few showers, most of them across the west. And for the Western Isles, the Northwest Highlands, Northern Argyll, cloud thickening generally later in the afternoon and the greater chance of a shower, but certainly not bad temperature-wise, up to 19, perhaps 20 Celsius, becoming quite breezy along the west coast later in the day. We head into Wednesday then, and low pressure is moving in. We have a couple of frontal systems in play. To start with, just some showery outbreaks pushing northwards through the morning. Best of the sunshine in the north and northeast. But into the afternoon, you can see we have a band of heavier, more persistent rain moving in from the southwest. That will work its way northeastwards across many parts. It will be persistent, it will be heavy at times, could even be the odd rumble of thunder in the mix. And it will be a blustery day with fresh to strong winds coming in from the southeast. Temperature-wise, it's still pretty mild, mid to high teens for most of us, and feeling quite pleasant in the north and northeast where you hang on to that brightness. Heading into Thursday, and once again it's pretty unsettled, especially for western Scotland, where we'll see showers, some longer spells of rain, some of them on the heavy side. For eastern parts and northern parts, hanging on to a good deal of dry and bright weather with some spells of sunshine, but certainly temperature-wise, it's a wee bit cooler. That's the forecast, Andrew.
There you go. So leaf peeping season is almost here. That's what you're telling us.
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that is just about it for tonight. News at 7 is back tomorrow, funnily enough, at the time of 7 o'clock. And remember that Good Morning Scotland will have all the latest news from home and abroad for you at 6 a.m. on Radio Scotland. Bye for now.